So today we're going to talk about A through G requirements and preparing for college and kind of what your student can do and what you can do as the parent. So A through G requirements are essentially our two state school systems. We have two of the largest public university systems in the country. They're called the UCs and the CSUs. They got together and they said, what are we seeing? How are we seeing students are prepared? How do we know that they are even a good match to apply for college? And so they decided on a set of 15 courses that they wanted students to take in order to show that they were at minimum meeting preparation requirements. And then they said, we want to see that students are getting a C or better in these courses, kind of the average. Something to keep in mind is that to meet A through G requirements, you don't always have to take the courses at the high school. So, we have a thriving dual enrollment program in our district, and so students can take college classes to help them meet the requirements. There are also some exams that they could take, like AP exams or IB exams, that would also let them meet these requirements. And there are even some other alternate methods when needed. And then with the exception of um, math and language other than English, all of these A through G courses have to be taken in ninth through 12th grade. So students can take integrated math 1 as 7th or 8th graders, and that can count towards their requirement. And that would allow them to start at a higher level math when they're in high school. And then students can take Spanish 1 or Spanish 2 if they're offered at their middle school, and those can count for their um, can count for their requirements as well. And then specifically the UC system requires that 11 of these courses be completed prior to the beginning of their last year of high school. So that's really important to keep in mind if your student is interested in applying to UCs or going to a UC. So this slide shows the high school graduation requirements for all of our Twin Rivers high schools. And then on the right, you can see A through G requirements. So I'll just go through the graduation requirements really quickly, just in case you aren't familiar with them. So in order to earn a diploma from a Twin Rivers high school, students need to take 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 2 years of science, 3 years of social studies or history. They need to choose either a fine arts course or a world language course. They need 2 years of PE. They need 1 semester or half a year of health, and then the rest will be electives. And what I tell the kids about electives is anything that's not one of these listed up here, anything that's above the minimum of these is considered an elective. So for example, if they wanted to take a 4th year of math, which we highly recommend, those 10 credits for graduation would be considered elective credits. And so by the end of their senior year, they need to have 220 credits in order to walk across that stage and earn their diploma. And in order to earn the credits for graduation, students need to get a D or higher in their courses. So on the right, we have A through G requirements, and you might notice they're pretty similar, but there are a couple key differences. So they still need to do history. They still need to do 4 years of English. You can see we require 3 years of math, and the A through G is 3 years of math. However, it's strongly recommended that they do 4 years of math. And then for science, for graduation, they need 2 years. For A through G, they also need 2 years, but we strongly recommend a 3rd year of science. This is the main difference that I like to point out to students and parents between graduation requirements and A through G. For graduation, students could, in theory, just choose an art class or just choose a world language. But if they're planning to apply to any UCs or CSUs, they have to do 2 years of a language other than English. So Spanish, Hmong, ASL, French, any of those languages. And they need to do 1 year of a visual and performing art. So they cannot just do one, they have to do both. and not just both, but 2 years of the language other than English. And then the last one is 1 year of an elective. We rarely have students who have issues with this one because 90% of the courses that we offer in Twin Rivers are A through G electives. So we rarely have issues with students meeting that elective requirement. I will say that another main difference for graduation and A through G is that for A through G, you need to get a C or better in order for the colleges to count it as passed. So what I told the students is D for diploma and C for college. A D will get them their diploma, but colleges will not consider that passing. They need a C or better in order for the college to say, yes, this student has completed this course. And then another thing to note is that the GPA that our UCs and CSUs look at is going to specifically be for their college prep courses after ninth grade. So it'll be their 10th and 11th grade GPA. And that's not to say that ninth grade doesn't matter. What I like to tell students is if ninth grade is a little bit tough, you get maybe mostly B's and C's. But then in 10th grade, you step it up and you get A's and B's, they're going to notice that, right? They're going to see, okay, we get it. High school is a little bit of a difficult transition, but look, in 10th grade, they really stepped it up and they pulled it together. And that's why their GPA is a little higher, right? So, or, vice versa. They could see that this student has been strong from the beginning, and then that's going to be a positive attribute on their application as well. And then similarly for 12th grade, it's still really important that they are taking college prep courses and that they're maintaining a similar level of difficulty in their courses that they had in 10th and 11th grade, even though they won't be factored into their A through G GPA. And the other thing I remind students is that colleges can take away their admissions if their grades drop and they don't get C's or better in their senior year classes. So that's kind of what I tell a lot of our students who might say, well, why does this not matter anymore? Any questions on the A through G requirements and kind of what they are?
Yes, when you retake a course and you get a better grade, does it automatically update on your transcript or they both will show?
Good question. So like let's say a student gets a D in English 9 and they retake it. On their transcript, you're now going to see English 9 twice with both of the grades, but only the higher grade will be factored into their GPA. Good question. Any other A through G specific questions?
I have a question. So you have
Yeah.
language other than English, 2 years required and then 3 years required. What are we looking at differently there?
Sorry, I know the Q and the C look really similar. So the first column there is required, the second one is recommended. So they
Okay.
like our stronger students who get into colleges like UC Berkeley, even UC Davis, we're typically seeing that they've taken at least 3 years of a language. Same with
Okay.
3 years of a science and 4 years of a math. Like our most competitive students, they're not just meeting the requirements, they're exceeding them.
Right. So would that be as important if their main focus is more in math or
Yes.
science?
Yeah, I would say it doesn't matter what they're focused in. They should exceed the minimum in all categories that they can. So like, for example, Cal Poly, which is where I went, Cal Poly actually wants to see that their incoming freshmen have 5 years of English. So what that might look like is English 9, English 10, English 11, and then they take 2 semesters of college English their senior year. And that gives them 5 years of English. Like students that are getting admitted to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which is one of the more competitive CSUs, typically they want to see 5 years of English and they want to see 4 years, if not 5 years of math and 3 years of science. Like they're looking for students who are exceeding those minimums in all of the categories. So math, English, science, and the language other than English.
Good to know. And how does like AP work into this?
Good question. So I didn't want to get too into the weeds, but the language other than English is an interesting one because it's not actually counting the years, it's counting the level that you get to. So some of our Spanish speaking students will start with AP Spanish their freshman year, and then they're actually done. They don't have to take more years, and they're actually considered to have met 4 years of the language, right? So for the language other than English, if you take AP Spanish, that's actually you'll have be considered to have 4 years of a foreign language. And then typically for our other APs, um, like the third year of science, most of our students will typically take an AP Science. And then I would say the other benefits to APs are that a lot of colleges will look at the school profile and see, okay, Rio Linda High School offers 12 AP courses. How many AP courses did this student take? And so they're comparing the rigor of the high school, of the student's schedule to what's offered at the school. So that's kind of one of the reasons that we want them to really take advantage of the rigorous courses. So like honors, AP, and dual enrollment, because colleges are comparing their schedules to what they could have done or what was available to them. Any other questions before we keep going? Those are all really good ones. Let me check the chat. So we should also consider research. Yeah, it's interesting. I just happen to know the Cal Poly thing off the top of my head because I'm still in like the Cal Poly parent group, and so I see what the like high school seniors' parents are posting and learning about admissions. But I would say that a lot of places you can sort of start to do research and see what they're looking for. And I will say, let me see if I can send you guys. So the UC uses something called multiple measures, and it's interesting. This will give you kind of a better idea. Is this it? A better idea of kind of in general what the UCs are looking at because they look at 13 different measures um, in terms of like applicant strength. I'll try to find it at the end and share it out to you guys because I think I have it linked in one of my other presentations. But I would definitely say that there's a lot of benefits to researching what specific, especially if your student is interested in a specific college. Like if your kid says, I want to go to Berkeley, research really what they're looking for because it's out there, whether it's unofficially on college forums or officially on their website. I would say definitely research. Yeah. Okay. If any other questions come up, feel free to pop them in the chat or say them out loud. I'll keep going. So I talked about this a little bit, but A through G requirements are really the minimum. So students should be going above and beyond A through G if they really want to be considered not just ready for college and for what that might look like, but to be considered competitive applicants for college. Not to use another Cal Poly statistic, but 3 years ago, there were, I think it was like 10,000 4.0 applicants who did not get accepted to Cal Poly. So college admissions is only getting more and more competitive as students have more access to just different rigorous options and have kind of learned what it looks like to be a competitive applicant. And so it's harder to just get away with doing the minimum, especially if you're looking at those competitive schools. I would say at Sac State, since there are local CSU, you will get in if you meet the minimum. But I like to tell students, choosing to go above and beyond means that you're better prepared for how hard college might be because it's going to be different than high school. So some other things, and I've touched on these a little bit already, but I'll touch on them again, would be taking more academic classes than are required. So we talked about English, we talked about science, math, basically just continuing to take academic courses, especially in math. Our students who are planning to go into a STEM field or something engineering, they really want to see students get to calculus in high school And that means that you're either taking integrated math one as an eighth grader, or you're skipping a year of math at some point in high school because it goes integrated math one, integrated math two, integrated math three, pre-calculus. That's 4 years right there. So if you're just doing 1 year of math every year of high school, you're not going to get to calculus. So really pushing those eighth graders who are doing well in math to take integrated math one if it's offered. Or what we see a lot at some of our high schools is a summer pre-calculus so that they can take calculus as a senior. So definitely consider taking those more additional academic courses. And then I touched on this too, but taking the most challenging courses available that your students think that they can handle. AP courses are considered college level work, and they have a lot of benefits if students can pass the exam. And we also, like I said, have a very robust dual enrollment program. This year, we have 29 Twin Rivers seniors who are going to be earning associate degrees, actually, probably about a week before they graduate from high school. And they're going to be earning a total of 34 degrees. So some of them are earning multiple associate degrees, and a lot of them are completing all of the general education transfer requirements for UCs and CSUs before they even finish high school. So taking advantage of opportunities that are available to them in the district is really important. Oh, good. I saw the comment about your student who's a senior and has felt like they've had a lot of support. That's our goal, is providing as much information to everyone as possible so that they really feel supported and like they've had what they needed to get, to get to where they want to go, whether that's an Ivy League community college or right to a trade school. Like we just want to make sure that they're well informed about all of their options, and maintain all of those options open. Sorry. Students can apply for the dual enrollment program actually starting in ninth grade. Um, Anytime after ninth grade, they can start. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about each grade level and some things that students should be doing kind of within that grade level to be thinking about college and preparing for college. So ninth grade, I would highly recommend that they get to know their counselor and they start to learn about college resources that are available to them, whether that's at their school or their community-based resources. So that could be finding out if your school site has a program that helps guide students through the college process. Our district has quite a few programs that are geared towards like low income first generation college students. So ETS, which is Educational Talent Search, that's run out of UC Davis. There's EOP, which is also, I think it's Early Opportunities Program. And then there's EAOP, which I think is Early Access Opportunities Program. But they're all geared towards supporting students from the ninth or 10th grade level in their journey to college. And they get to go on college field trips, they get support with applications, that sort of thing. So I highly recommend seeing which programs your site has. Oops. Sorry. Keeping grades up starting in ninth grade, even though we talked about how the GPA starts really at 10th grade, starting strong in ninth grade is going to help them keep that momentum as they continue. And all sites should have some form of in-person or virtual tutoring opportunities. So if your student is struggling, asking them if they're aware of what the tutoring options are. I know we have Paper, which is an online tutoring service that I believe they can access 24/7 on their Chromebooks. And then if your student is an English learner, we have another one called Willow Way Tutoring that is also a virtual tutoring option that they can access from home. I highly recommend encouraging your student to talk to the rest of their family, their teachers, other adults that they know, just about their college experience so that they either get excited or start having, goals of going to college. Creating a professional email to use for college exploration purposes. A lot of students are embarrassed when I have to ask them for their personal email and they're like, glitzy pink girl 14. It's good to have a more professional, last name underscore first name, first initial, last name, something like that email that they can use for college applications, scholarship applications, um, and things like that. Um, explore career and major options on californiacolleges.edu. This is our new platform that we implemented last year. Students can log in and they have access to, I want to call them interest inventories, but different kind of, it'll ask them questions about themselves and what they like to do. And then it'll kind of tell them about their personality, or it'll tell them what they might value in a career. And then from those values, they can see what careers might match up with them. And then they can explore within those careers what majors they might want to choose in college. And then they can use those majors to see what colleges they could go to that have those majors. So it kind of spirals up from who they are as a person to careers that might fit to colleges that might have the majors that could lead to those careers. And it's never too early to start learning a little bit about yourself and what you like. I would say ninth grade is also a really good year to start exploring extracurriculars. So school clubs, sports, leadership, start doing volunteer work, getting involved in community programs, anything that you could, well, one, just enjoy, but also things that you can keep a list of that you've been involved in high school. Okay. And then really encouraging students to read as much as possible. This is going to improve not just their reading levels, but it's going to help them develop new ideas and it's going to support them in building their vocabulary, which is a huge part of a lot of the college entrance testing. So like SATs and ACTs have a lot of vocabulary. So reading a lot is going to support them with that. And then if you or your student is undocumented and you feel comfortable sharing that information with your student's counselor, I do encourage it because then the counselor can be aware and can support in different ways because there are scholarships that could be specifically for undocumented students. There are, in California right now, undocumented students are still eligible for state aid. And then they can also talk to you about what it looks like to do the financial aid application if you, as the parent, are undocumented. So just something to keep in mind. And then at the ninth grade, if your student is an athlete and they want to play sports in college, talking to their coaches and or counselors about NCAA requirements, because some colleges, Division I and Division II, have slightly different requirements to be eligible to play sports in college. So they're a little bit different than A through G. Okay, summer after ninth grade and summer after 10th grade too. If students are getting D's or F's, they should be attending summer school to make those courses up. We don't want to wait until later. They should be making those up right away. Keep exploring majors, get involved in some things over summer, or even take a community college class. If you have the time, take them to visit Sac State. Take them to visit UC Davis. Chico's maybe an hour and a half away. Take them to visit Chico State. Kind of get the idea of college floating around in their brain. If that's what they want. Students can also take time to reflect on how the school year went. What went well? What didn't go well? What lessons did they learn and how can they do better in 10th grade or 11th grade? And then kind of thinking about academic, personal, and social goals for their next school year. All right, 10th grade, keep taking academic courses. That's when we see a lot more honors courses available and we start to see even a handful of AP courses available to students. Students in 10th grade should take the PSAT, kind of see where they're at in terms of standardized, college entrance tests. They should keep researching colleges. They should start considering, do they want a big school? Do they want a small school? Do they want to live in the city? Do they want to live in a rural area? That sort of thing. Keep reading. Again, vocabulary and general knowledge is really, really important for for ACT and ACT and SAT type things. They can continue to visit colleges. A lot of our high schools have reps come out and do presentations. So signing up for those presentations so they can learn about colleges is a great idea. And then attending college fairs. There are frequently college fairs in our area and within our district, and students can go to those to talk to more college reps and just get more information. They should also think about starting a list somewhere. I usually recommend either a Google Doc or the Notes app in their phone and just jot things down. If they win an award, if they're involved in an activity, if they volunteer, they should put it down. So then when they get to their senior year and they're working on their college applications, they're not sitting there like, man, ninth grade. What did I do in ninth grade? They can just look at their note and kind of see what they were involved in and what they want to list on their application. And then continuing to volunteer in the community, join student organizations, and participate in school activities in general. '11th grade is a really, really important year. A lot of things happen. So, really stepping it up with difficult classes, really locking in colleges that they're interested in. And then students either should take it for the first time if they haven't, or they should retake the PSAT as a junior, because that is how they can qualify for the National Merit Scholar Award. So a certain, score or higher in the country is eligible for the preliminary national merit, and then you go on to semifinals and finals. So that's the qualifier, is taking the PSAT in 11th grade. Excuse me. Continue participating in school activities. Keep adding to that digital list that they've started. And then junior year is really when I recommend meeting with your counselor if they haven't yet, to make sure they're on track to meet all of their A through G requirements. You don't want to wait till senior year and then be surprised like, oh, hey, you still need 2 years of a language, but how are you going to do that because you're a senior? Or you haven't taken art yet, and so now you have to take art when you could have done it the year before, instead of taking some elective that you chose. So really at the junior year, making sure that they're aware of their A through G requirements, where they stand, and what they need. A lot of summer programs available for 10th and 11th grade students. So a lot of colleges will host just summer programs, whether it's an internship or an academic program. Sometimes they'll get to stay in the dorms. Sometimes they're more rigorous than others. So kind of thinking about what they can do over the summer. And then ending 11th grade, I would say with a list of maybe 6 to 10 colleges that they're really, really interested in. And making sure that some of them are safety schools, some of those are matches, which means, the average student is comparable to your student. So GPA, extracurriculars, etc. And then you could have 2 to 3 kind of reaches. So those dream schools where you're not sure it's going to be a reach to get in, but you still want to apply because they're really interested in it. And then the last thing to consider for 11th grade would be to start writing their personal statements for the UCs. So the UCs have 8 different prompts that students get to choose from, and they have to choose 4. And so I really recommend they start those the summer after junior year so that they can write a rough draft and then come back and ask adults to read them and offer them feedback. I think that's really important. Okay, let me check the chat real quick. So for the SAT, ACT, these aren't actually required for acceptance. So how important it is to have students? Good question. So you're right. The SAT and the ACT are not requirements anymore for our UC and CSU system. However, there are still a lot of private colleges that want to see that require the SAT or the ACT, and then they can also be used for placement in their English and math classes if they go to a CSU or a UC. And most of our school sites have fee waivers, so I recommend they take it. They don't have to report the scores to any of the colleges if they don't want to, but if they do well, then it doesn't hurt, to have an extra data point that's showing that they're a strong student. Does the TRUSD still offer practice sessions or opportunities for the PSAT? You can find a lot of resources for practice things on Khan Academy or College Board for the PSAT. And we typically offer opportunities for 10th and 11th graders to take the PSATs at their school site. So you should get something, you should get information on those. And then, yes, it looks like Heriberto sent the personal insight questions. Those are available. They haven't changed in quite a while. And there's a lot of good guidance on how to answer those questions on the UC website, like what they're looking for. Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, your student has reached 12th grade. They are on the home stretch. I think it's really important that students continue to take a challenging course load each term. I'm not saying they need to take 6 APs their senior year, but still taking, I would say, at least 3 academic courses, right? So English, government and econ, maybe math, maybe, they're finishing out a CTE pathway, whatever that is, but taking kind of more academic core subject courses each term. They should start working on private college applications when they open, which tends to be, kind of in August. And then in September and October, we see the UC and CSU applications open, and they should get started on those. The CSU one is the easiest. The UC one is going to take them a little bit more time, but hopefully they've already started on their PIQs as a junior. So. Some of our seniors will take the ACT or the SAT again, if they didn't like their junior year score, and then sending it to colleges if they've done well on it. Then in the end of November, early December, we see our CSU and UC deadlines. In the last couple years, we have seen a lot of the CSUs extending their deadlines, but you don't want to count on that. So planning to submit them in November, December, but you could always check individual sites and apply to additional ones after the initial deadline if you want to. Applying for financial aid before the priority deadline, typically March 2nd. So that's going to involve both the student and you guys as the parents completing a portion of the financial aid application. So that students are going to get get awarded financial aid from the federal government and from the state government for now. And then through all of 12th grade, I recommend that they should be applying for scholarships. If I had a child, which I do not, but if I did have a child who was a senior, I would be looking for them to do 1 scholarship application a week, if not more. It's a numbers game. So if you only apply to 5 scholarships, you can only get 5 scholarships. If you apply to 100 scholarships, you could get 100 scholarships. So as many as possible. And then before May 1st, reviewing financial aid offers from the schools that the students have gotten acceptance letters for, and then submitting the intent to enroll in any necessary deposits. That'll kind of be, at the end of at the end of their senior year. My student applied to several Cal State campuses. One of them sent an email the next day, basically stating he was in as long as he stayed on track. Is that an acceptance email? Yeah. So something fun about the CSU campuses is a lot of them are doing kind of directed admissions, which is essentially, if you meet the minimum A through G requirements and you get C's or better in your classes your senior year, you are accepted. And typically, you can check in the portal and see that they have been on. That's very common to see with a lot of our Cal State campuses, especially like Sac State, just because it's our local CSU, and then some of the like lower enrolled CSUs, like Chico and a few others. You'll see acceptances come back pretty quickly. Heriberto, can you drop my scholarship spreadsheet on Crystal's chat? Oh, perfect. You're on it. I should have known. Thank you. I maintain this spreadsheet at the moment. And I have it set so that it shows how many days are left until the scholarship closes. And then there's a ton of scholarships on there as well that will be opening in the coming months. So they should be checking that every day, and applying to them as many as possible. Yeah. Oh, I wonder if it was Cal Poly Humboldt. That would make sense because they're looking to double their enrollment over the next 3 years. Yeah, Humboldt is really looking at increasing now that they've become a polytechnic university. So, okay. Last but not least, I kind of just wanted to give some like takeaway thoughts, on how you can support your student throughout high school. So I would say one of the big ones is just talking to them regularly about their education and their plans and their classes and how it's going if you feel like you have, the capacity or the time. And then being involved in their meetings with the school and the counselor as well, if you're able to. Seeing what the school is doing to make sure that your child passes their classes. And, if they're behind, what can they do? um, in the ninth grade and 10th grade, making sure that your student has completed a 4-year plan that's kind of outlining the courses that they're going to take. They can change, they're not set in stone, but having an idea of what they need to take every year to meet graduation and A through G requirements. And then they can update that, every year or as things change. Ask about opportunities for your student to take more challenging courses and really encourage them to, maybe if they're a little scared, start with an honors course. Those are kind of that middle ground of a little bit more challenging, but not quite college level courses yet. So that's a good way for them to kind of dip their toe in the water and see what it's like. And then when they're successful, it'll give them that boost to take that next step. Or if they're really struggling, then you can figure out other supports, to help them be successful in that honors course just at that level. If you notice that your student is getting D's or F's, making sure that you know what the school offers in order to either meet graduation or A through G requirements. So they can do summer school. We have online credit recovery that they can do before school or after school. So if you look at your student's transcript right now, you're like, oh no, my 10th grader got a D in English 9 semester 2. They can actually redo that online in the spring. So just reach out to their counselor and say, hey, my student needs to redo this course. How do I get them on the list? So I would say that's an important thing. And then just talking about, I say college plans, but really post-secondary plans regularly with your kids. I would say I do tend to be a college supporter. However, I know that's not for everyone, but I still think that every high school student should have an idea of what they want to do or what their plan is for once they graduate high school. Do they want to work? Do they want to go into a trade? Do they want to go community college 4-year? Whatever that might look like. And then, encouraging them to really use California colleges and look at all the careers that they can explore and all the colleges that they can explore on that website because it has a lot of really good resources. And then the last thing that I linked is the UC preparation calendar. I like this document a lot. If your student is aspiring to attend a University of California, it breaks it down starting in the 7th grade with suggested items for students and suggested items for parents. And you can see the UC is a huge proponent of reading, even if it's nonfiction, fiction, anything where they're, increasing their knowledge and their vocabulary and maybe expanding their worldview. So I really like this UC preparation calendar because it goes through every grade level and is really comprehensive. Yeah, so that's what I've got. I saw there was a lot in the chat, so let me take a look and then we can spend the last part, answering any questions and talking about whatever we need. Let's see, Humboldt scholarships. Yeah. Is there a template/guide? Yeah, so the UC for the PIQs, there's this website. Let me see what this one tells you. So, like, here's the question, and then it tells you them things to consider. And I like to tell them, like, these are kind of guiding questions that you can use to tailor your answer. Because I feel like high school students spend so much time learning how to write like a prescriptive 5-paragraph essay, right? A hook, a topic sentence, a thesis, whatever. PIQs are not the time to use flowery language and that sort of thing because you only have 350 words. So every word or every sentence that they write should somehow relate back or be answering the prompt. There's no room to waste words. So yeah, I highly recommend looking at this, reading it, and then somewhere, I think on one of our old presentations, I linked a few other resources for it, but this is a really great one. Um, yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. I'll open it up now if anyone has more questions, related or unrelated. Now's the time.